from the CyberHub bunker and studio, you're tuning in to the CyberHub podcast. And now for your host and CISO, James Azar.
Happy Hump Day, everyone. It's Wednesday, September 29th, 2021. Just one more day left in this month before we kick off October, which is National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, and we're going to have some great content coming up in October for you, so don't go anywhere. If you're not subscribed to the show, please make sure to do so right now. If you're not following us on YouTube, go to CyberHub Podcast on YouTube and subscribe and turn on the notification. That's how you know when we go live each and every single time. Go follow the CyberHub Podcast CISO Talk page on LinkedIn and on Facebook, Instagram, and everywhere else you are. Thank you so much, everyone, for tuning in this morning. We've got a packed show today, including Confluence, a new FinSpy, China, and Afghanistan. You'll see what is going on there as well. We'll talk about VPN and an alert by NSA and CISA, as well as a prominent member of our community being arrested for treason. We'll talk about that as well. So stay tuned. It's a very, very busy show today. But before we do that, shout out to our sponsors here, KnowBe4 and Ativo Networks. Go check them out. You'll see more about them in the show notes. Let's give some shout outs. Good morning to David. Awesome. Mr. McQuiggan will be with me on Friday. So as we kick off National Cybersecurity Awareness Month, good morning to Brent. Good morning to Oyisiji. I'm so sorry for trying to butcher your name here. Good morning to Jonathan, Vladimir, Shalom. How are you doing, my brother? And Keith, good morning. Thank you all for being here today. Before we do that, though, our traditional cup of coffee, what are you drinking this morning? Are you a coffee person, a tea person, a Red Bull person? Apparently, there's some people who still do that. So without further ado, coffee cup cheers, folks. My double espresso with that beautiful foam right there on top. That's what makes an espresso an espresso. If you ever get a espresso and it's flat and it looks like black coffee, like the kind you get at like Starbucks, horrible, horrible. Don't drink it. That's not an espresso. It's going to ruin your espresso experience. If you're not getting it with a little bit of foam on it, that means that the beans that they're using for the espresso are not for an espresso. They're just simply for black coffee, and the machine doesn't squeeze them right. So just keep that in mind. Coffee cup cheers. Always say be better than Starbucks. Good morning to Jima, and let's see, Vladimir is having his house blend black. Coffee cup cheers. Tim Hortons all the way for you. And Eddie, good morning from Big Dallas, Texas. All right, folks, let's get right into today's show, where a Confluence RCE flaw is being abused in multiple cyber attack campaigns. For those who don't know, Confluence, very, very popular in the DevOps, in architecture and engineering in any organization beyond security, even in DevOps, the office of the CTO, office of the CIO. And now we're seeing threat actors who've actually found an active and are actively exploiting a recently disclosed critical security flaw in Confluence deployment across Windows and Linux. They're deploying web shells that result in the execution of crypto miners on compromised systems. This has been tracked as CVE 2021-26084. The vulnerability concerns on the Object Graph Navigation Language, or the OGNL, which is an injection flaw that could be exploited to achieve arbitrary code execution on a Confluence server or data center instance. So a remote attacker could exploit this vulnerability by sending a crafted HTTP request containing a malicious parameter to a vulnerable server, according to researchers. Successful exploitation can result in arbitrary code execution in the security context of the affected server. The vulnerability itself, which resides in the webwork module of Confluence server and data center, stems from an insufficient validation of user-supplied input, causing the parser to evaluate rogue command injections within the OGNL expression. Cyber Command has already warned of mass exploitation amount after this was disclosed in August. In one attack that was observed by Trend Micro, a Trojan and a cryptojacker was found updated to leverage the remote code execution flaw to distribute next stage payloads that act as a channel to maintain persistence and deploy cryptocurrency miners. So they're not really stealing work at the moment. All they're doing is they're just essentially doing crypto mining. So they're making money on your computing and you're paying the bill, you're fronting the bill for it. Keeping that in mind, a lot of data rests within Confluence, and at some point or another, they're going to go after that data as well, especially if it has network architecture of your organization, or it has a shared work environment for different deployments and projects you're doing. If they're able to get their hands on all of that, you can imagine just the kind of damage one can do. There's a patch for this. Please get it patched. The other aspect, if you want to stop this, if you can't patch for whatever reason, we know that to do an HTTP request, only allow HTTPS requests. That tends to also mitigate this specific risk. Keep that in mind, folks. Good morning to the awesome Matt Lee. Thank you for being here, good sir. We'll move to our next story here, where a FinSpy surveillance spyware has been fitted with a UEFI Bootkit for Windows. So the Windows UEFI bootloader is essentially now under the notorious FinSpy surveillance spyware hijacking. They're replacing it to perform stealthy infections on target machines. The method of infections allows the attackers to install a bootkit without the need to bypass firmware security check, and it serves as confirmation that the controversial vendor of lawful interception spyware has modernized operations to remain essentially undetected. The findings come from Kaspersky, who said the spyware has been tweaked since 2018. It adds multiple checks to avoid the prying eyes of security researchers and security spyware. So software, like EDR or anything of that nature. Also, what's very interesting is where they put this in is after the security check has been done, meaning they allow the security check to finish, and then they go in there. The custom-made code, which is essentially the spyware features 4 complex custom-made obfuscators meant to slow down the analysis of the spyware. On top of that, the Trojan is capable of using the developer's mode in browsers to intercept traffic protected with the HTTPS protocol. The amount of work putting into FinFisher not accessible to security researcher is particularly worrying and also very impressive. So something to keep your eyes on with this one. Older machines that do not support UEFI, Kaspersky observed infections through the master boot record, the MBR. This comes at a time where we're seeing more and more software attacks. So keep your eyes out for this one. At this point, there's no real mitigation. This is an actual vulnerability that's out there. If you're within the target kind of landscape of what they go after, you can bet your sweet tail they're trying to use this on your environment. So keep an eye out for it. The Windows Boot Manager, there are some where some patch does help, but not in all cases. Keep that in mind, folks. We'll move to another story. This is courtesy of The Record. So a suspected Chinese state-linked threat actor infiltrated major Afghan telecom providers. There's been 4 distinct infiltration by suspected Chinese state-sponsored threat actors that stole gigabytes of data from the corporate mail servers of major Afghan telecom provider Roshan within the past year, with data exfiltration by some spiking during the Taliban's recapture of the country, according to new research. The attacks highlighted China's intelligence interest in the region as the Afghan people are going through what they're going through. I don't want to get this political. What I do want you to keep an eye out for is how they essentially infiltrated the Roshan mail server, and then how they exfiltrated all this data. One thing to keep in mind is you can see all the command and control servers right here. We'll see Dark Papa. We're seeing Random Analyze. We're seeing the DHS G123. We're also seeing the memberrig.com. All of these domains should be blocked within your environments right now at these, so that if they try to use these domains across, or these command and control servers across any other organizations, you're able to put a halt to this attack. The nature of them getting in is significant. Again, this has more geopolitical ramifications, but anytime we can put a halt to China's illicit cybersecurity activities, you can see those right here in front of you on the graph. Block these domains, let your SOC know, let your team know, your forensics as well. Keep an eye out for these. Anything within the context of these domains is going to be significant to help you lower your risk of one of these threat actors targeting your organization. We'll move to an alert issued by NSA and CISA sharing VPN security tips to defend against threat actors. So CISA and the National Security Agency have released guidance for hardening the security of virtual private networks, or VPN. The two agencies created a document to help organizations improve their defense, particularly against attacks from nation-state adversaries. For one, don't use Pulse Secure. That's one thing. These guys, like, I'm telling you, does not go a month where I don't read about Pulse Secure. No different this month either. This is essentially a Pulse Secure document. The document provides the directions for selecting VPN solutions that follow the industry standard and best practices. Organizations should also choose products from reputable vendors, meaning avoid Pulse Secure by all means. As general rules for hardening the VPN, they recommend a few different things. One, configure strong cryptography and authentication, running on strictly necessary features, protecting and monitoring access to and from the VPN itself. Obviously, we know that FireEye released a report about two state-backed groups, likely Chinese, that used a zero-day vulnerability in Pulse Connect secure appliances to attack U.S.-based industrial networks as well. So keep your eyes and harden your VPN solutions. Those are extremely important and critical. And we'll end with this final story today. Russia has detained the head of Group IB on treason charges. In a court this morning, a Moscow court ordered that the co-founder of one of Russia's leading cybersecurity firms, Group IB, to be detained on charges of treason. They're not detailing what it is, but 35-year-old co-founder and director Ilya Shakov has been held in pretrial custody for 2 months on treason charges. The court's press service said it's not providing much details. A conviction in treason, which is most of anyone who's accused in treason in Russia ends up in jail, is 12 to 20 years. These cases are typically classified. Group IB said their Moscow headquarters had been searched yesterday morning. Top management and legal services are working to clarify the situation. Group IB also has offices in Amsterdam, Dubai, Singapore, Kuala Lumpur, and Hanoi, Vietnam, according to its website. Shakov, who co-founded Group IB when he was just 17 years old, was featured in the Forbes 30 Under 30 list of tech entrepreneurs in 2016. 3 years later, he received an Innovative Breakthrough Award from President Putin for his development and contribution to the field of cybersecurity. One of our own within our industry, cybersecurity defense is a partnership, and we work with all kinds of companies from all over the world that offer us a solution and a better way to secure our infrastructure. This is very interesting. It's also very concerning. So it's concerning one of two things. Either he was a Russian state actor, meaning the Group IB was set up as a Russian shell, working with organizations across the globe and maybe providing intel back to Russia in order for them to have a more successful way of navigating some of the organizations they're targeting. And this person went back on Ilya went back on that commitment, and we don't know that to be true. That's not what I'm saying here. Or the other part is Group IB or Ilya discovered something, and Russia's putting an end to it. It could also be a shakedown. Those are very common in Russia, that Putin will shake successful people down through treason charges. So that's also very concerning. That's it for our practitioner brief today, folks. We'll be back tomorrow to wrap up this week. Friday, James McQuiggan will be joining me on at 11 a.m. Eastern. We'll be doing a kickoff to National Cybersecurity Awareness Month. So tune in for that. And then for the month of October, on every Thursday, I'll have a guest on the show. We'll be talking about what is cybersecurity awareness does. So we'll take a few stories like we do traditionally. We'll spend about 5 minutes talking about good cybersecurity awareness tips and so forth. I've also got a very special episode of Tech Corner coming up. How could we communicate awareness in 9 seconds? We'll learn from these awesome ladies. That'll be due in mid-October. So stay tuned for all of that. Make sure to subscribe and follow today's show. We'll be back here again, like I said, tomorrow at 9 a.m. Until then, have a great rest of your day. Hump Day Friday is just around the corner, folks. And most importantly, stay cyber safe. Cheers.
We love feedback, so make sure to connect with us on social media and subscribe to our podcast on your favorite podcast listening platform.